Sound
Okay,
good?
you're good.
All right, thanks everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order again for the Committee of the Whole. We are going to forgo the Pledge of Allegiance. We've already done that because nobody new has arrived. And I do think we need another roll call. Mr. Scott.
Mrs. Albright.
Here.
Mrs. Bell.
Here.
Mrs. Godfrey.
Here.
Mrs. Leone. I don't know why I keep saying that to myself. Okay, Mr. Miller.
We're all of us.
Miss Olson.
Here.
Mr. Scott, yes.
Did you
Mr.
write down that
Strobel.
number for
Mrs. Thompson.
for Mrs. for me? Yeah.
I was just taking care of a bookkeeping thing. So procedures for public participation have not changed in the last 45 minutes. Agenda edits. Oh yeah, we are gonna have an executive session after this meeting. I'm sorry, to discuss potential litigation, and I don't think there's any other edits. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
Hey, thank you, Madam President. First of all, I want to start off, I know this month is Board School Director Appreciation Month. Month of January, as it is the case every year, and we will be formally recognized in the work of the board for your service to our students and families of our community at our 125-21 voting meeting in 2 weeks. A little update on our COVID cases. We've been continuing to keeping the board and our community informed, families informed of the cases that have transpired since the returning from winter break. Obviously, we've seen an increase in the number of cases after the break, very similar to what we had seen after the fall break. With that brings the requisite number of quarantines to as a result of those increasing cases. So we will continue to monitor those cases and act appropriately based on the recommendations of the Pennsylvania Department of Health and Department of Ed. One of the things that was changed or updated on the PD websites is the recommendation for counties that are in a substantial category. If you remember their recommendations, although community choice, local education agency choice, LEAs, to offer something different than what they would recommend as fully remote instruction for those counties in the substantial category. They changed that most recently to reflect the elementary level to be some form of in-person instruction for the elementary age students. Now, this does not affect us in our district because of our learning options we have available and where we're at the elementary level. So it does not have any impact on us. Also, we did receive the funding I shared a couple months ago, a grant that was written from the Berks County CARES Act grant, requesting $100,000. We did receive those funds, which will be utilized, as indicated in the grant, to offset some more costs associated with the pandemic, in particular our virtual academy students, due to the increased enrollment as a result of the pandemic in our virtual academy program. And then finally, just a reminder of the finance budget workshop that will be taking place this Thursday, the 14th at 6:30 p.m. right here, to provide a general 1,000-foot view, so to speak, of 21-22 school year budget. And as always, obviously, there'll be much work to do. That concludes my report, Madam President. Thank you.
Thursday.
This Thursday, correct.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Any questions from the board on anything he mentioned? Okay, so we have a very patient visitor, Mr. Tom Flatley, and I think he worked with Mr. Matz to figure out how to get the presentation ready for viewing.
I think we're set. I just need the projector turned over.
Did he leave? Oh, good. Okay.
Um,
Do you need her to start?
No, I'll
Oh,
get
okay, you're not
started
ready,
and
okay.
give a little picture where we're at and stuff. So, good evening. My name is Tom Flatley with American Land Development. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you guys this afternoon. American Land Development is a family-owned local development company. We're based in King and Russia, Pennsylvania. And tonight I want to present to you an economic opportunity involving tax incremental financing, and with that, an exciting project that we're bringing to Amity Township. Tonight, Jeremy Zabrowski, the Executive Director with the Berks County Industrial Development Authority, was going to join me tonight. Unfortunately, he came down with symptoms of COVID over the weekend. So
Glad he
you're stuck-
stayed home.
Yeah, he stayed home. You're stuck with just me. So.
Fine.
So a little bit about myself. I'm a local resident of Amity Township. I'm on the Planning Commission for Amity Township. I'm part of the 300th Committee. I've had the pleasure of working with the Glazer Foundation. So this is a local project to me and close to my heart. So I mentioned the idea of the TIF, and I think this had been distributed prior, but I'm going to play a short video. Gives you a good overview of exactly what tax incremental financing is.
TIF, or Tax Increment Financing, is an economic development tool used to encourage economic growth and create jobs by allowing developers to pursue developments that they normally wouldn't pursue if they had to fund the projects on their own. Typically, a developer will have to prove 3 items to be true in order to receive approval. Number 1, that the area is blighted or that conservation is needed to keep the area from becoming blighted. Number 2, that you can't afford the development on your own. This is called the but-for test. Number 3, that the project you're seeking to create is going to benefit the entire community and not just the developer. Typically, once approved, the annual tax property increases are restricted or frozen at the current level. The increment above that frozen level is then used to pay off the financing over time. After the completion of a project, the surrounding real estate may increase in value, generating additional tax revenue for the community. And the additional goods sold from the real estate can increase the sales tax revenue from the community as a byproduct. For example, let's say there's a 100,000 square foot shopping center in your community that is run down and needs to be redeveloped. The real estate taxes on the property are $1 a square foot, or $100,000 annually. Your community wants to have a new grocery store in town, so the developer designs a plan in which will include a new grocery store, new sidewalks, improved streets and roads, and so on and so forth. Let's assume these improvements cost $10 million. The new property, along with the improvements, are estimated to increase the property's real estate taxes to $4 a square foot, or $400,000. The difference between the $100,000 and the $400,000 is $300,000. This $300,000 is the increment. The increment is then multiplied by 20 years, equaling roughly $6 million. Then it is discounted by a discount rate and any associated underwriting fees. This would result in about a $4 million TIF for the developer to either bond or to collect quarterly as a pay-as-you-go. The real estate taxes are paid by the retail tenants that occupy the real estate, say the grocery store in this example. And once the TIF has been paid in full, the community will now have the benefit of the tax revenue, which is at $4 a square foot instead of $1 a square foot, as well as any additional sales tax revenue generated from the real estate. That, in a nutshell, is how a TIF works.
Just to get your bearings on where the project is located. So the project is sitting up here off of Amity Park Road, which is sandwiched between Beavertown Road and Lime Hill. So it's adjacent to Arrowhead Golf Course. I think you should have a packet in front of you as well, and this page 2 includes the site plan. So we partner with TH Properties, and we are going to be developing a 340-unit, age-restricted, 55 and over community. It's going to have an all-inclusive community where low maintenance, there's going to be amenities, access to the golf course, walking trails, and there's a mixture of single-family houses and twins for this development. And I think there's actually proposed or elevations in there for those units in that packet. So where this project is located is in the PBOI district in Hamilton Township. So that's the Planned Business Office Industrial. I'll pull up the zoning map. So it's everything in purple is zoned at the PBOI. The PBOI was established over 10 years ago with the intent to attract business and development and obviously the benefit of the tax income that would be coming from them. Unfortunately, in the 10-year period, nothing has been developed in that zoning district, and that's why I'm here tonight. So the hurdle that developers and ourselves are running into with the PBOI is there's no public water and sewer to that zoning district. The cost is prohibitive to start a project and pay for the offsites to get water and sewer there. Sewer is located all the way down, water is located all the way down to Island Pizza. So there's a major cost on the front end in order to get these parcels to be viable for development. I have a video that will actually give you a good understanding of the infrastructure. So this starts at the intersection of 422 and Limekiln, where Island Pizza is. The blue line is the proposed water extension. So that should give you a good handle on, it's a pretty massive undertaking to get water and sewer to the property, which is why that area has not developed over the last 10 years. So I'm coming to you tonight to propose the idea of a TIF, or tax incremental financing, that would allow for us to expand the water and sewer into that zoning district and allow us to move forward with Highland Place development and ultimately open up that district to plenty of future development that would benefit the township, school district, everybody involved. So with a TIF, the next process or the process of the TIF would be to simply start a TIF committee. There's generally 2, sometimes 3 individuals that would be willing to join the committee from the governing bodies. So say it's 2 from the school board, 2 from the township, and 2 from the county. All 3 taxing authorities would get together and begin what would be a TIF plan, which would then put together the ultimate layout of how the TIF would work, the contributions of the incremental tax that would be brought in by our development, and full build out based on today's millage. We're going to be north of $2 million just on our project alone of additional school tax coming in from the age-restricted development. That tax alone will support a TIF, which is why we're here tonight to ask for your consideration in being willing to participate in a TIF committee.
Okay, so, and stop me if I'm wrong on anything, because that's always a possibility. The way it was explained to me, if we form a TIF, if we take part in forming a TIF, the TIF would be the body that kind of takes care of the information that you saw up there, where like the percentage of the tax revenue that goes back into paying the capital project, that being the water and sewer, that amount would be recommended by the TIF committee. But if there is ever a point where we are like accepting a reduction in taxes from this community, where that money is going back to the developer to pay for the water and sewer, we would have to approve it individually. So it's not like we're saying right now, yes, we're going to be fine with getting like 1/5 of the amount of taxes that we would have gotten. We're not saying that today. We're, anything that is an item that the TIF committee recommends that would normally be something that we would have to vote on, we would still have to vote on it, but with the understanding that we would be taking the TIF's recommendation to TIF committee's recommendation for a specific course of action under advisement. Doesn't mean we couldn't vote no if they were proposing something ridiculous, but we would be entering into that group with that understanding that they've considered things when they recommend it to us, that it's coming from the recommendation from the whole group, including our own members of our board that are part of that committee. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. So I wish Jeremy was here tonight to elaborate a little more. But so the way it works is the Berks County Industrial Development Authority has to play the intermediate, per se. So they will be the ones that are going to govern or participate in the TIF committee. And then ultimately, if a TIF plan gets passed by the board, whatever that may be, if it's a 20-year payback and 10% of increment, or all of that gets negotiated or figured out by the board, and then, by the committee, and then presented to the board. And the Berks County Industrial Development Authority will be the one responsible to make sure that whatever plan was put in place is followed.
Right.
It keeps the developer separate, and the Berks County Industrial Development Authority, for example, I'm sure you've been to, I think it's called Exeter Commons, where the Lowe's is in Exeter. That was funded by a TIF. All of the road improvements there were funded by
Right.
it. And it was actually funded with Berks County Industrial Development Authority being the intermediate. So this is obviously my presentation to the school board. I have had preliminary conversations with the township. I will have to go in front of them with a formal presentation like this, and same with the county. Obviously, the school tax is the biggest part of whether a TIF will work or not, so this is the first stop. And I'm looking for the recommendation or your willingness to participate in the committee, and that would then give me the comfort level, okay, I'll go present to the township, to the county, form the committee, and then see if we can move forward with what a plan would be.
Yeah. So my understanding that right now that land is what, greenbelt and fallow farmland,
Correct.
and so that is why it is able to be labeled as blighted, even though it's not really blighted. It's not what we would normally think of as being blighted.
True. So it's weird because you think of blighted, you think of somewhere downtown that the buildings are bombed out. So the definition of blighted in reference to a TIF, there's like 30 different things that fall into that, and the number one thing actually is lack of public infrastructure.
Right, which is the whole reason why we're here.
Right, so
Yeah.
that alone would actually qualify as that task one on that video.
So what do y'all think?
Question. Beyond the facility that, what you're building, how much land is there beyond that?
So in the PBOI district,
Yes.
there's just over 500 acres. We have 112 of it. So you're looking at about 400 additional acres of open space or open land that is not developed. There's a couple single-family homes, full farmhouses on there, but it's all ready for development once it gets infrastructure.
And that's all currently zoned as business, light business industrial?
Correct, so it's PBOI, so it's planned business, office, industrial. The only residential use that's permitted by right in the PBOI is the age-restricted development, which is what we're going in under. So there won't be residential development. If there is, they have to go for variance.
So once, if we go forward with the TIF and water and sewer comes that far up the road, it's no guarantee that the rest of the space is going to be developed, but it is a lot more likely. Right, absolutely.
But how close is it to the soccer field and the pool in that area? And I know Hamley Park Road weaves its way through there.
Yeah,
The community
It'll
center?
run,
No, I mean the
Oh,
Hamley
yes,
Park,
yes, okay.
the pool and the soccer field.
yeah, I think it runs right next to it. I think it runs right next to it. Because you'll hang a right on Amity Park Road off of Limekiln,
so right
correct?
here are the fields.
Yeah.
So they have access off of Amity Park and also, what is that, Monocacy Hill, I think?
Right, yep.
So both sides, so our project is up around the bend, is one of the main access points.
But it wouldn't impact the pool and the soccer fields?
No, absolutely not. And I think the township actually owns another parcel on the other side as well. It was, a long time ago, they had planned to expand part of the AC as well.
And then, I'm sorry, incremental taxes, incremental off of what?
So, the simplest way to explain it would be right now, we have a farm property that has annual taxes of, let's call it 10 grand, right? As we build out the houses, each home is obviously going to come online with a new tax. So let's say each house is 5 grand, right? For easy math, we build 10 houses. So the new tax base is 50,000, right? We're currently paying 10. So the increment is that newfound $40,000.
And those details would be hashed out by the TIF committee.
Oh, gosh, yeah, I mean,
Right.
to the T. I mean, because you can play with the time at which the TIF goes. You can play by the percentage that you want to be contributed, and each taxing authority has the right to say what they want to kick back towards the payment off of the note. So the school can pay less or more than the township, but in most cases, they generally pick a number. 15%, 25%, whatever it is. And then once the loan or the TIF is paid off, then 100% of the incremental new tax goes to whatever taxing authority.
Do you have the estimate of the amount of money it would cost to get that back? Or anything?
That was going to be my question. You stole my question.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No,
I just thought the board would be interested in that.
Yes.
We have contingencies built into the number, but right now we're dealing with a number of 4.6 million.
Okay.
Yep.
Question I had is that there was mention of discounted rate fees. Where do they, who develops those, and where does that money go?
Sorry, the what?
There was a mention, like, let's say the tip was 6 million, the increment was 6 million.
Yep.
And then there was some
The discount factor?
rates and fees, and then so the balance would be 4 million.
Yep.
Where does that 2 million go?
So it's actually present value of money. So they're taking out what's going to be coming in full bill out of the project, which say that starts year 6. And they're going to run it for 20 years. The present value of that money sitting here today. That's how they calculate that. Yep. And the fees for the TIF are relatively minimal. And Jeremy, obviously that'll get hammered out specifically with the committee. But the Berks County Industrial Development Authority does charge a fee to manage all of this. Yep.
And one thing to consider for us, at least in the short term, is that if this is going to be senior housing, This is all taxable income coming into the district and the township with no additional students.
Right.
Which, that might not be the way it is for any future development that could be like, built upon your success, if there is success, which we hope there will. I want everybody to be successful. But so that might, we might have, future development that might impact the school numbers, but this would not. And my understanding, I feel that, that Mr. Flatley's assessment, I know it's informal assessment, but, that if it's been sitting there for 10 years because no one wants to put the money into putting water and sewer in there, it's going to continue to be whatever it is, 10 grand or whatever we're getting forever, until somebody with deep pockets, puts in their own water and sewer, if something alternate to another approach isn't taken. That doesn't mean you don't want it to, maybe you don't want it to be developed, but that, it is, it would be additional money to the district eventually. Maybe.
It's available to be developed now.
Absolutely.
This, by going this route, it gives you some control over the
Absolutely.
approach that be able to participate in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have a question, as you go down that road, will the adjacent housing have the opportunity to tap into that?
So ironically enough, they would, except they just ran a low pressure main that's not sized for PBOI. So all the houses on Limekiln already have access to sewer. They put it in about a year and a half ago. But yes, so anywhere
Help offset your costs.
Are they all on well water and have sewer?
It would have.
they are, yes.
Okay.
They're well water and they have sewer. They have
Okay.
a low pressure main that was put in because they had some failing systems actually right next to the Amity AC.
I see.
Yep. Yeah, but to answer your question, yes, so everyone will get access to water. They won't be required to tie in. If they have a well, they'll have the ability to. And then obviously the industrial sites for future development will have access. Water and sewer will be sized for future growth, not just for our project.
Anybody else have any questions? So, if we're going to agree, what we would have to do is put it on the agenda to just appoint people to the TIF committee. That would be the next step if that's what we want to do. Because we're not voting to make any changes to the monetary amounts that are coming in now. I don't know, is that what were we looking to do that at the end of the month?
Yeah, if we would carry it over to and make a motion as an added consent item on the voting meeting on the 25th to approve 2 of our board members and to be named later or prior to that meeting to participate as part of that committee.
Would we be able to, if we did that, and we can vote on that at the next meeting, would we be able to make the term end in December or November so that it matches? We normally have our consolidation and reorganization meeting in December, and we vote on all of the committee memberships outside this body that we have to be members of.
Okay.
Would we be able to have that appointment process match up with our other appointments that we do so that there's some continuity, so we can do it all at the beginning of December every year?
So are you suggesting that we wait till the beginning of December?
No, I'm just saying for this first year, if we put this on the agenda for next meeting to appoint some people, we'll have their period end December 30th.
Sure. Yeah, that's
And then,
fine.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So Jeremy told me, he said Exeter Commons, for example, it took about 3 to 4 months for them to get a good handle
Right.
where they were able to at least present something to the school board.
Right.
And I suspect in this case it's probably going to go even quicker because there's a lot less involved. We're running water and sewer
Right.
to this area. So
Right.
yes, that would be no problem. We should absolutely be able to at least have a plan in place in the next couple of months.
So, okay, so we can, if you guys have other questions for him now, please ask them. Otherwise, we can save our discussion of, we're looking for appointment of 2 people from this
We
body?
had 2 or 3, Jeremy said.
Maybe as an alternate?
Yeah,
somebody as an alternate?
Yeah, he said, I'm not sure, who was interested in being on it, but a minimum of 2, and if there was enough people that wanted to be on it, a 3 could certainly be
I
accommodated.
foresee, like maybe 2 years of a lot of discussion, and it doesn't get disbanded completely until it's paid off. But at the end, you're not really meeting very often.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would think it would be an annual meeting once the TIF is in place,
Okay,
with Berks County Industrial Development Authority providing quarterly or monthly updates.
Reports, okay.
However you want that to be, but they're in charge of the administration of it. And we already talked to the county as far as the tax rolls and how they're going to coordinate that, and that's not going to be an issue. So there's not a big burden as far as the administrative side for the school district.
okay.
Question, a timeframe, projected timeframe for.
The project, if I could put water and sewer tomorrow, I would. So we,
That's water and sewer, that's
Yep.
very, that's.
TH Properties is ready to roll. I already submitted our preliminary plan packet to Amity Township. We've already received any of the waivers that we needed from Amity Township in regards to setbacks and things like that. So we're in full engineering for the project.
Right, so just so, because I don't understand that, the second half of this, we go through this, you guys start digging, you roll out, one in, and the project doesn't go. Happens.
That is, I guess that is a concern that the committee would want to address and talk about, for sure. We have a hard commitment from TH Properties, and we're 100% in it. TH Properties has money in the deal.
It makes no sense to do it and not have that commitment, and for them to
For
do
sure,
it.
yeah.
I understand that, just I didn't understand how that works. So everything's already done in terms of the project, is that correct?
Yeah, as far as we have a hard contract with TH Properties, we already have the project designed, and now we're just going through the final approval process, which I don't foresee any issues there. And TH Properties would love to break ground as soon as possible. So
For us, I mean, it's $4 to $6 million a year at one point down the road. I mean, there's going to be an increment now, because we don't have to give all of that.
Well,
But that would certainly affect our budget.
in theory, if the TIF committee, if the TIF committee approved this, and the money that gets given back to the developer to pay for the improvements that are being made are only paid on the delta between. So if those housing units never sell, there's no delta. It's just the cost. So I'm sorry you're out of luck, but we
Correct,
we
yeah.
aren't really out of luck. We still get the same amount of money.
Right?
Does that make sense?
Well, I get that part, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, if they do sell, what it does for our district.
That's why I think it's,
Incredible shopping market, because there's nobody coming in the school.
but that's also why if someone's coming to us with this as the proposed solution to get those utilities out there, I would hope that they have their ducks in a row first. And I believe that is the case. It sounds like it is. So
yeah, for sure. We've been working at this for a while. Unfortunately, the hurdle has been the infrastructure. And it doesn't pencil without getting creative, something like this. And I already know that I anticipate there being some activity fairly quickly once other people know infrastructure's coming in. But no one wants to be the first one in. That's just the reality of it. But we're committed to this project.
right.
Big risk.
So if I don't hear an objection, I'm just going to propose that we'll have a vote on some committee members to give to present for the TIF committee at the next meeting. And I mean, if you have any concerns in the meantime, do we have did you send an email to the whole board?
I think I sent an email to Dr.
Yeah, it was the one that was sent to me and I forwarded it to the board.
So if there's questions from the board in the interim, because it's 2 weeks till our next meeting, we'll get those questions to you, so everybody just feels like comfortable for how they're going to vote. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the Berks County Industrial Development Authority, I'm sorry Jeremy wasn't able to attend.
No, absolutely. If there's a question you can't answer, you can forward it on.
And actually, anything related to the TIF, I am going to just ask him for the
That's
answer.
fine, that's fair.
I'm comfortable with it, but he's the expert, so that's where we would get the answers from.
Okay.
So, okay? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Would you like Jeremy to attend the 25th meeting?
What do you guys think?
I'll certainly be here, but I didn't know if you wanted to ask him to attend.
Yeah,
If you have questions.
I think if there are any questions, that might be good. And, barring
We need to
any,
see a negative test.
yes,
Yeah, that's
barring any illness or weather issues, we'll expect to see.
Bob, you have to check him in.
all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, moving on to finance. There are just 2 items for finance. Any concerns, comments, questions? Any public comment? All right, moving on to programs. So why are we revising the calendar yet again?
The revision is just adding a marker for the paydays.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So
Everything else stayed the same.
any comments or concerns from the board on that revision? Any public comments? Personnel. We got a couple of retirements, resignations, anything anybody wants to talk about there? Leaves. 6 leaves. Appointments, still looking for an assistant principal at the high school. Those are ongoing interviews at this point, or?
Yes, we're still in the process of interviewing that. And we will have that name populated by the time
Okay,
we're at the voting meeting.
okie doke. Any concerns for under personnel from the board? Any public comment? Moving on to Secretary's correspondence, Mr. Scott.
This is going to be very brief.
Okay.
No correspondence.
Okay. Moving on to Mr. Miller's the IU report.
There was no meeting in December.
Okay. Oh yeah, holidays. I get it. BCTC.
We met on December 10th. They're still doing a 14-day quarantine guideline as well. If the school closes, our school closes for an extended period, then you can still send your students to BCTC.
Okay.
It's like short-term closure, and that's and then next meeting is January 27th.
Thank you. And we will get the name changed by next meeting. Sorry about that.
Correct.
Okay, so our student government reps were unable to attend, but Ms. Sweet has kindly said that she would give their report for us.
Okay, so this is the student government report, and it's on behalf of Hannah Castro, so I'm reading on behalf of both.
Okay.
I'm gonna skip a couple of things because it's really, really long.
Okay.
But basically, she said how amazing we are doing at the high school with the restrictions. She said about small slopes and how successful we were at sending people to counties. She lists those students who were successful at counties and did it. She also wants to talk about whole perspective of COVID and athletes, which is actually quite interesting if you find the time to read it. She did want to highlight the fact that the Danny Boone sophomore class of 2023 was able to produce a project and was a help to their class. They competed against other schools with this project and ended up placing second overall. With the project, they achieved a great deal of recognition. With the design, they were in fact placed high enough to have won money for the class. They raised a total of $500 for the class of 2023, which goes to show how all grades, for the members and the virtual, coming together to make things happen. She goes on to talk about homecoming and football games and homecoming dance. Even though they were not able to happen, she talks about how the football game did happen and how the football commentators for the Color Cup was Stephen Willow and Scotty Denal and how successful they were with those two. She also mentions the nominees for Homecoming King and Queen and talks about the homecoming coat. And then she says how thankful she is the school district for the COVID cases and how it puts students and families at ease. And she's very thankful for how the year is coming so far. And she says the bottom line is looking back at the last few months, and homeschooling was always the best, but Denton is providing us with the best opportunity for dogs to warn and want to be a priority and keep it safe. So,
Thank you, Ms. Sweet. Any comments on that? I know it was a long time ago, but I was pretty impressed and happy that we were able to actually have a home report presentation. We were one of the only schools in the county, I believe, that could do that. So, and we're going to hear from Ms. Sweet again with the student board rep report.
I'm back. Okay. So here at the high school, winter sports are finally starting up. Students are extremely excited to get back to the season and are working hard to represent Newton. At the high school in December, there was a blood drive, and this month there's not much going on. The Future Business News of America had the regional competition a few weeks back virtually, and we had 5 students participate in that. Technology Students Association has their competition coming up in a few weeks. Other clubs are having meetings on Zoom to encourage participation, but most clubs are struggling because students don't want to get engaged with it all being virtual. With COVID cases rising, the halls are almost empty as many students are staying home to protect themselves and others. The current seniors are worried that they have rules taken away from them, so keep that in mind when making upcoming decisions. Speaking on behalf of the senior, all we really want is an in-person real graduation. Everything else we've kind of accepted isn't going to do that.
Noted.
So, going on, talking to middle school students, they are really excited with what's happening at the school. The sports and clubs are occurring. Some students report with sports were not successful in COVID distancing, and they said how the coaches didn't wear a mask and the spectators were not shouldn't be. But other sports were really successful. The soccer team at the middle school was really successful, the students said, and how they mentioned that they didn't even do tackling until like halfway through the season because they were not ready, which is kind of impressive. They also said that the marching band chorus and the select chorus all have different ways because of COVID. The band one now sits 12 feet apart, and they have special masks for instruments. And the select chorus is all virtual on Zoom. The students that have one big complaint, the death shields that they've been provided are very easily cracked and ripped and destroyed. The one student came and told me how the entire front of it was basically gone. And so they know the importance of the shield, and they're trying to see if there's a better use or a better PPE that they could use in the classroom besides the shield. They're especially saying it's really hard to see out of, and so they're very worried about that. All the students on the call appreciate the safety procedures in place, and they do not mind if all the things are different because they respect the fact that they have to be safe. The GLUE program at the middle school, the gifted program, is really excited for the upcoming mock trial that they're starting to gather. As for the intermediate center, they're just very excited that they had iPads. They talked about the entire club meeting that iPads existed. We're so excited that they exist. As for the primary center, the PAUSE program was recognized, and the winners for this past month were listed in this report. I'm not going to attempt to say those names because I feel bad if I butcher them, but they're very excited about the PAUSE program and how successful that has been. That's everything. I would like to take the short time to announce that Luke Gandra accepted the role of junior representative position. He could not be here because he had wisdom teeth removal surgery, but he's excited to get started and will be here next week.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sweet. Anybody have any questions, comments for her? Okay. Moving on to legislative report. Is there one, Mr. Strobel?
Yes. No, there's no legislation.
Okay. Is that a regular meeting, or do you just get like news blasts?
It's
Quarterly.
Okay. I'll try to expect less.
April 13th, next meeting.
Okay, all right. Any other board reports for anything that we've missed? We just switched over from me to Ms. Bell as the tax board representative. Their next meeting is in March, and I did not attend the December meeting because it was my husband's birthday, so there. So, but everything is in March.
Good reason, yes.
Okay, any public comment on board reports? Enrollment's there. Anybody have any comments or concerns? Any public comment? Curriculum and instruction, Ms. Albright.
Yes.
All right. We talked about the secondary model presentation and the health and PE program, Preston, is that right? Help me out.
Yeah, sure. So what we did the last curriculum was a 2020 year review and 21 preview. The health and PE program.
Yeah, I got it. That's right.
The health
That's right.
PE program that Mr.
Chappelle.
Stewart and Mr. Chappelle wanted to go into detail of those modifications. So those are the big topics. We just kind of did a year in review, with the things that kind of occurred, especially around the technology and programming that launched, and where we're heading.
I think any questions? Might help if I turn them on. Any questions for Mr. Knight and Ms. Albright? Okay, next meeting will be January 25th for our next voting meeting. Extracurricular meeting just happened before this. Mr. Miller?
Yes, we met earlier today, had a presentation on eSports Club. Request to start an eSports Club at Danny Boone. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that. It's the video games and electronic games for sports. Apparently a lot of kids are interested in it. It sounds like something that we'd really like to move forward with, no cost really to the district.
I was very excited as well.
Are they all sports-related games, or are they?
No.
No, they're not. Like I said, it's one of the issues that was raised. Is that there is some fiction of violence in some of the games, but apparently it can be controlled and needed. There's an opportunity to moderate input during the games.
Any board games? Is there any restrictions whatsoever on the games?
Oh,
I mean, there's not a board game out there you're not shooting somebody.
the recommendation was that we would stick with games that other schools were competing in, and not move too far afield of those. Anything that was teen or above would get a parent's a signature to keep them with, to keep on file. And then there are some, not every first-person shooter or whatever has the ability to do this, but where you can, there are ways to dial down the gore, and we would do that.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, just a question.
Yeah, I agree. Get
Somebody,
started.
it's going to come up. It's going to come up somewhere.
And we have a teacher who was very excited and motivated to be the advisor for that.
Other things that we covered, winter sports has started. The games have started this week, and obviously there's challenges with COVID. And Exeter has already had to cancel some games. That's what we're working around now that the seasons have started. Activity fees did come up. We delayed requesting activity fees for winter sports, but that's happening. There was a request to not collect activity fees for clubs. As we heard, clubs are pretty much on Zoom and they're haphazard. There has not been a whole lot of participation, so we'd like to recommend that we waive the fees for clubs this year. The committee was in agreement. The proposal for the turf field is being brought forward for redoing the turf. There is a proposal for field turf. I believe it's just replacing the turf is $433,000. And there is an additional optional component of $72,000 to redo the pole vaulting area, to move it. Apparently all of our jumping is in one area, and it delays things, and it kind of, when we have multiple uses going on, it causes some scheduling problems. So for $72,000, we can have 2 separate jumping areas for pole vaulting and jumping. That's included as an optional feature. And then moving forward, there are multiple optional features for the future. Actually, there are 3 other optional features that were presented. One was for repairing the track. There are some repairs that need to be made to the track at $37,000. And then the others are for cutting and removing. I'm not sure what this one was. The second one is first. $9,775. Cut out and remove and patch areas. That's surfing. That must be for the track repair as well. The second one, I suppose it would. They're all track repairs, I guess. The second track repair is to cut out and remove patch areas of the laminated surface.
I know we talked about the removing the fence there, and then there will be some kind of go out there because of the ball, correctly, football, also the pilot.
Yeah, that's the third one. The big ticket item is apparently there's only one power outlet on the field at midfield. There's a proposal to put in conduits all the way around the field at different receptacles. And the thought is at some point that we're going to be required to have 40-second clocks for football games in the end zone, so we have to have generators for that today. So that's included as well.
Yeah, that previous one, delaminated surfaces, the track is in very good shape. However, there's some delamination at some points of it that aren't significant. So just some minor repair of that for about $10,000.
Okay.
Do you know the extension of the start-finish line had ever occurred? I know at one point there was a lot of talk about that. We couldn't have large meets here because of that. Is any of that?
We talked about that. No, apparently the track is another 5 years left, and when we have to redo the track, we'll look at doing that. I think part of the problem, I guess there are 8 lanes going down the straightaways, and the curves only have 6. It's another reason we can't have large meets. That they'll all be looked at in 5 years when we look at redo the surface. And the other item that was mentioned was the unified track proposal. We're going to have a unified track team moving forward, and we're going to have a presentation at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Next meeting will be February 8th, 5:30, right? 5:30. Okay. Facilities and Transportation also just met before this meeting. Mr. Strobel.
We did. Kind of summarize a little bit. It's
Oh.
going to get.
Sorry, I was supposed to ask if anybody had any questions if we had any public comment. Okay. Sorry.
Steve's going to get prices on storage for these schematic drawings that are for all of the buildings and equipment and all the different facilities items require their storage now, and they need to be moved. So there's no proper storage of these documents, so they're going to look at purchasing containers, hangers that we can hang properly, and then so that would be the physical storage of them. But then there's a second piece. Hopefully, we'll be able to get pricing on for electronic storage of them, because there's always a damage of water, fire, and once those documents are gone, it's substantial cost to replace them. Plus the ease of using them. If they were made online, they would always have to run back to the building and grab something. The eyewash, the Sharps pickups, there were some KPA type things where there was some concern about getting the KPA's Sharps pickup. Nurses' offices and the eyewash machines that are around the building now are dated, they're older, so he's going to take a look at what they can do and potentially have some bottles ones with those, update the ones that are there now to make sure they're functioning and people
Sorry, I wasn't in that meeting, but I would make a point that the handheld ones are not acceptable to replace cloth ones.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that. They're just not. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. They're not even close.
Thank you.
But ones that are there now, I just want to make sure they can check to see if they're up to date and that they're functioning. So right now, they look like they're pretty bad shape. And they can look bad and still work. I don't know. So, and then last but not least, the chiller showed his head again. It's been back and forth, and we were going to have to replace it, and then we weren't going to have to replace it. now they found a way that they can potentially rehab it and hopefully get 6 to 7 years out of it. So that's going to show up on our voting meeting and for a cost of $35,700.
I did want to ask, did you talk about the sharps?
I did.
You did, okay.
And that's all I have.
Um,
The next meeting would be
February 8th, right?
next voting meeting.
Yeah, February 8th. Any questions for Mr. Strobel? Any public comment? Moving on to finance.
We had a very brief meeting, nothing major was covered. The topic, budget workshop is coming up Thursday, kicking off the budget season.
And that budget meeting on Thursday, what time did we choose, 6:30 or did we choose something else?
6:30.
Okay,
Sorry?
okay, I couldn't remember. Okay? And then we'll have our regular finance meeting at the end of the month. Any questions for Mr. Miller on that really complicated report? Any public comment? Moving on to policy review. Mr. Scott.
So our meeting we just had this evening at 6:50, we basically, thanks to Rob, we read 4 policies. 3 of the 4 were related to Act 110, which, if I'm correct, Rob, it's regarding dating violence.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then our 4th policy this evening was about recycling. Our next meeting is on February 8th at 6:50.
Okay, thank you. Now, the policies are under first and second reading are all there for everybody to review in their spare time. But does anybody have any questions for Rob or Mr. Scott in the meantime? Any public comment? Okay, moving on to technology. Mr. Strobel.
No meeting.
Oh, that's right.
We have a meeting, and the next meeting will be 25th.
Okay.
I do have a technology question
Yeah.
for Mr. Matz. I don't think we have an issue, but I've been spending a lot of my professional life looking at solar winds. Do we use solar winds in the school district?
Solar winds?
Solar.
Winds. It's a monitoring system which is and now we're distributed throughout the government and private businesses by,
Mr. Hurley's saying no.
you know,
I have a question back to you. Is that a software package that you're seeing, or that's something?
it's a package that a lot of companies, you use it to monitor your servers and your network equipment to make sure it's up, down, and patched, and a lot of things to do with it. They
Sounds like not the best place.
pretty much it was the Russian APT and a lot of the federal government's been compromised.
Any other questions for Mr. Strobel about technology? And any public comments? Okay. Moving on to old business. Got the voting meeting minutes. Any questions or comments from the board on that? Any public comment? New business, I see none. Any new business from board members? Okay, any public comments? Any presentations by the public on items not on the agenda? And hearing none, I will ask that we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, I heard first and a second.
Oh,
No,
who's the first?
You.
You're first. Okay.
Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller.
Mr. Miller.
And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.